Welcome back to Stand With Us. I'm Roz Rothstein, your host, and we're here with Abe Hawk. Thank you for coming back to the show, and I hope we'll have you here many times. We've been talking about how you grew up in the Middle East, the anti-Semitism that you faced, and we want to bring you to today and your current journey and the realization that a lot of that was very harmful and dangerous and really needs to be reformed. But before we do that, is there anything about Egypt that you'd like to share? I forgot to ask you before. I wanted to see, because you lived in Egypt and in Saudi Arabia for a while each. Is there anything about either one of those places you'd like to share?
Not in particular. I mean, Egypt, both Egypt and Saudi Arabia share the same cultural characteristics. Of course, Saudi Arabia is a little more closed society, but it's not about particular countries. It's about, you know, a general cultural phenomenon. And it's anti-Semitism is not the only thing that is in trouble with that, but it works. Anti-Semitism fits in nicely with a list of other characteristics that keep Arabs where they are, and Muslims in particular, one of which is, of course, tribalism. You know, the notion, they say in Arabic, أنا وأخوي ابن عمي وأنا وابن عمي على الغريب, which means my brother and I are against my cousin, and my cousin and I are against the stranger. The notion there is that, you know, personal and tribal relationship trumps right and wrong, trumps fairness, trumps even allegiance to a society and a state and the rule of law. So that's one. Another one is, I would say, what I would call blameism, the notion that our troubles are caused by the colonialist powers. Our troubles are caused by England, by Israel. Our troubles are not our own. And that is any on the individual level, on the collective level as well. The first thing one needs to do before one improves one's lot is to acknowledge the problem, you know, to own the problem, to say, I caused this, and that ownership then empowers them to change. Another one is revanchism. All of these are characteristics that are in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Lebanon, general features of Arab culture. And what I would say revanchism, especially in particular to the state of Israel, the desire, it seems, for the Arabs to always reverse history. You know, the Palestinian leadership and the Arab leadership in general is always asking for the status quo ante, you know, not the status quo. What's on the table is the status quo. Let's talk about what is actually available now. No, the Arabs wanted the one we just rejected. We would like to get back to that 10 years later, you know.
The ones that the Palestinians rejected.
Yes.
They want to get back to that old argument,
yeah.
or old offer.
They will reject the offer now, and they want the one that they have just rejected. And before that, they rejected that one because they wanted the one before it, as if, you know, always trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, so to speak.
Let me interrupt you for 1 second, because the first Arab quote you gave us about my brother and then the stranger and all that, you reminded me of a book, The Hajj, by Leon Uris.
I have not read it, but I know of it.
The Hajj.
Yes.
By Leon Uris is an excellent book, and actually, I believe that's at the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
That sort of thinking, that tribalism, and how he opens the whole story. Yeah. It's a very good book. Yes. Leon Uris, who unfortunately died in 2001. Otherwise, we would have honored him for Exodus and the Hajj. Yes. So let's talk about your journey today. Okay. And how you put all this together and sort of come out with the Abe Hawk that you are today.
Okay, well, it's actually not an exciting story. The end is very significant and transformative, but the steps were long, and it was just lonely study, sometimes often tedious, hours of study and reading. Nothing dramatic, there were no epiphanies where at one point I said, ah, this is what it is, I was mistaken. It was little by little, book by book, report by report, that began with a single challenge from a reference librarian at the University of Chicago in 1976, where she was an Israeli, and I had a passing conversation with her, and she said, and I said something about peace, and that we would arrive at it if the owners of the land were restored to their land, and that was stolen from them. And she said, it wasn't really stolen. And I said, of course it was. What are you talking about? And so she said, instead of getting into an argument now, I just go ahead and research on your own and find out if there was any dispossession that occurred before the outbreak of hostilities after the partition resolution in 1947. Now, I was raised with that assumption. In Arabic also, they use two words to describe the Zionist onslaught on Palestine. One is an acquisition of the land. One is ightisab, which means rape of the land, and the other one is istila, which means expropriation, essentially. And so the assumption always, although it's not pronounced or given with examples, is that these European Jews arrived and belligerently drove off Arab farmers from their lands at the point of a gun. And so I went back and I researched, and I found nothing. Not the first year, but for 37 years could not find a single evidence of a single time where members of the Yishuv actually drove Arabs off their land by force.
So you did your own research. We're going to be right back and hear more about that and your journey today. And so don't move, because Abe, your story is riveting. Thank you. We'll be right back.